Hello there, and welcome to the live stream. Last week on my stream, I was using some graphics on screen which looked something like this with these little slide outs. And I had a question as to if these were available for sale. And they're not actually, but I thought, well, why don't I just do a demo of exactly how I made them? And then you can get them as a free download after the fact. So you'll find a link to do that down in the description and also pinned to the chat as well. If you go and sign up now, then you'll get it as soon as we finish the stream because we've not made the template yet. But I'm basically just going to build this all out live in Keynote and actually do 3 different sort of variants of this kind of thing, and then make it a little bit easier than this particular one for you to then go in and make any edits and make it suit your particular style and so on. So first of all, how is this done? The software that I'm using obviously is Keynote. We're talking about a Keynote template. So if I come back into Keynote and just exit this for a moment, really this is using 2 key features of Keynote. You can also do this in PowerPoint as well. So in PowerPoint, you would be using their sort of live video into Keynote. You can see here that my video is actually coming directly into Keynote at the moment. So this is what this is. I'll show you how to do all of that. But then we're also using a feature in Keynote called Magic Move, which is the one that I use to sort of move my camera across from one position to another. So you'll see that here my camera is centered, but then as we go into this slide, then it moves from one place to another. So that is just in the transition. If I just preview this transition, you can see how the camera sort of moves over. That's why I use live video into Keynote for this, just because I like the subtlety of being able to adjust the camera position on screen versus if I was using some sort of overlay into Ecamm or OBS or whatever you're using, then you end up with this thing of anything that comes on the screen is sort of squishing you somewhat, coming in from the side, and it doesn't quite look as tidy as having you sort of centered in that particular space. There is a feature in PowerPoint that does the same thing, which was introduced, I think about 6 months ago, something like that, which is their morph feature. And that's basically the same thing. So just to explain briefly what that is, I've done a few other streams about this, but basically what happens is if I just create a completely new blank slide, the Magic Move feature is a transition, and basically it means that anything that you put on the screen, you can put things in whatever position you want, just like this. And then let's say I duplicate this slide now, like that. Then as if I move this one over here and make this a bit bigger, and then I move this one over here and make that a bit bigger, let's say. We've now got this situation where we've got 2 slides, one with these boxes in this position and one in this position. And if I go to the animation here and I select the effect, click out of that, the transition effect. If I go to select Magic Move, so this is the transition from one slide to the next. If I select Magic Move, then what's going to happen is that would be the effect. So it's basically taking care of the animation side for you. All you're basically doing is put things where you want them in one slide, and then where you want them in the next one. And then as you just go from one slide to the next, it's going to make that transition for you. So if we just come back to this demo that you've just seen with the one that slid out from the side, what you can actually see is those elements that are on screen in this particular slide here with these little title slides, title cards, or whatever you want to call them, and the logo there. If I go to the previous scene, you can see that they are all actually in there somewhere. Where are they? They are in there somewhere. Oh, they're in here. That's it. Let me just move this one out of the way. They're in here behind this little thing here. And so as we go to the next slide, they basically slide out. It's because I duplicated that one. There you go. So you can see the logo there is off screen. And there the cards are off screen, but then here they are on the screen. And that effect that I got where the cards were, I think I've just switched over this camera for some reason. Let me just quickly change this for a second. Format, change camera to that one. There we go. Yeah, so then when the little cards were sliding up, let's just double check that and look at the effect that we were getting. So the point was this thing would slide out. These cards would then slide in, and then they would slide up just like that. And then the bullet points would come in. So what I was doing there I realized what my slight confusion. I realized I'd changed the way that I was doing this. What I used was the magic move was basically bringing in the Academy logo there, and then this side part was sort of sliding in. So that's how when you come to this scene, those things are there. But then what I used was for these individual cards, when I actually brought them on, I did do that with a regular animation. So that's how those things appeared. But when I move from this particular scene here or slide here to this one, all I've done is I've literally just dragged this particular card further up like that. And then I've added in some text which animates in regularly. So the position of that back card you can see is now higher, but this here is actually just text that we're going to animate in the usual way. So if we just look at what's happening with that magic move, it's basically going from there to there. So that's the sort of process. This is going to be obviously easier if I just actually show you how to build it out. But I just want to explain the sort of premise of how this stuff is all working. So what I thought I'd do is do 3 different sort of variants. I will sort of recreate this one here to a point, and then I'll also do sort of a couple of other different options as well. So let's just start with a completely blank template, so blank canvas. And what we're going to do is, first of all, I will just add in the video source. So the way that we do that is if you go to the media option up here, and then you come down to where it's, and I realize when I do that, it shares that. Let me just see if I can quickly do a better job of sharing this screen for you, because let me just quickly do this. It will make it easier rather than flicking in and out of that. I'm just going to completely redo this scene for a second. Bear with me one sec. It will stop it going bigger and smaller on the screen in the way that it was if I just do this. So I'm going to do full screen. Let me just quickly update this on the fly. This is the benefit of Ecamm, by the way, is it does make it easy to update things as you are going through. So let me just put this one here. In fact, I can take off all of that. Right, so I've got my my Keynote screen share there. I'm just going to make this much bigger on the screen. So what I'm doing is I'm just adjusting the way that I'm sharing Keynote so that you get a better view of everything. Apologies for this. This is I didn't realize my Keynote was going to suddenly jump in and out of different different sizes when I was just simply selecting options from menus. So we'll move this up here like that, and then I will drag this one down. And across like that. There we go. I think we're nearly there. And what I'll do is I'll just make that big enough so that it fills the screen. There, finally, we got there. And you can see my Pro Mouse as well. So there we go. Let me start again. Right, so where was I? I was going on to media, and then from media I said, I should say, we're looking for the live video. There we go. I think I'm back on track now. Click on live video. So this is a way that it adds in live video. Now this is defaulted to my FaceTime camera in my laptop, so let me adjust that. It's a good job I haven't got any mess that's normally out of the view. Well, you might argue with that. Maybe it is a bit messy. Let me come up to here though and go to live video, and where you see the camera, you can come here and you can click on the plus and choose any other camera. Now this is going to be my one of my cam links, and I'm guessing there we go. I thought I would get the wrong one, but there. So that's how you embed a video into Keynote. So we've got the first step out of the way, and the point about, as I was saying about the reason why I bring the live video through Keynote, and I'll show you, by the way, at the end how we can just completely change this out, so we're not using live video in Keynote. If you just want to be creating the graphics in here to then bring into OBS or Ecamm or whatever, but if I just add slide. And I take this video here, and then I just place it somewhere else on this screen. Whoops, I didn't want to do that. I wanted to resize it. So let me just resize that and put that over there. The point about this is you can animate video as well in terms of the position on screen. So if I go to the animate function here and then click, where are we? Add an effect, magic move. So you can see that that's the point. It allows us to animate our video. So with that said, let's just get this out of here. And I'm going to start by just putting my video in the sort of full screen position. Let me just zoom out a little bit and just to get this aligned up so that it's taking up the full screen. You can always come into here, so format, and then you'll see arrange is where you can adjust the sizes. So 1920 by 1080. Let's just get this exactly right. So it should be 0 and 0. So that's exactly in the right place and filling the screen. There we go. Step one, get the video in. Hey, Lawrence, great to see you here. Thanks for the suggestion. Yes, this was totally off your suggestion, of course, that I'm doing this live stream. So I appreciate it. Yeah, the template will be available immediately after we've finished. Hey, Neil, happy Easter to you too. Thanks for stopping by. Let's start then with adding in some of these elements. Now, obviously, we've got a couple of things in that one that we've already looked at, which is there's a sidebar that sort of comes in, and then I had that concept of basically kind of like cards that come up and then expand up. So the first thing then is we just want some sort of shape. Now, what I'm going to do is this one here, if I go to a slightly different version of it, I'd got this sort of textured background. So I'm not going to do that in this one because I'm not quite sure about this, but it's like an Adobe stock thing. So I'm not sure if that's ideal for redistribution or anything like that. So for the time being, I'm just going to use a completely plain background on this one that I'm recreating. But then I'll show you how you can just drop in an image if you want to do that afterwards for some sort of texture or something. But for the time being, I'll just stick with solid colored shapes. So if I just click on here to add in a shape. Now, that one, let me just double check. Yeah, that was the one with the straight edges, wasn't it? So if I drop in a shape and I can just drop in something like this. So that's just up at the top, shape and the rectangle there. And you can make this however much space you want to have it on the screen. What I tend to do is sort of build out things where I want them to be, when everything's out, as it were, and then sort of go back and move everything off screen afterwards. That should make sense in a moment. So let's give this a color, and let's stick with that grayscale one because then you can just easily go and adjust it. So there is the sidebar there. So if I go over to style, if you don't see these things on the side, just it's one of these 3 tabs up at the top. Make that a little bit so it fits in. So if I click on format and go to style, then we've got the color fill here. So you can just go and pick a color. Incidentally, the Apple color picker is useful. If I just go to get one from here. If you go to the Apple color picker, the default that most people look at is something that looks like this, and they've got their little palette down the bottom where they can save colors and so on. But if you go up to this one up here, this is where you can actually create your own. So you can create your own different palettes for different things. So I've just been getting into Notion finally. So I've got all the Notion color swatches there, or the color swatches for Notion. But if I go to here and create a new one, you could create a completely new palette and then give it a new name. So Keynote template. Now this isn't going to copy over for you, but it's something you can do on your own Mac. So if you've got your company colors, you may want to come in here and just save your different colors, and then you can just create whatever collection you want of different things. So if we just drop this into here, I could take that color, I could take this color, let's say. And you can also go in and put in the the hex codes and so on. So if you know the hex code, you can go and put that in here, like down there, and that will create the color. So something like that. So that will create the color in there, and then you can go back here and just drag and drop that in there, or you can click the little plus to add it in that way as well. So that's how you can sort of build out your own sort of custom palette. So for the time being though, let's just create something in, I said we're going to do this in grayscale. So I've got a few gray colors there. So we'll start with that. So I mentioned about starting off with putting things where you want them to be when this is all sort of out on the screen, as it were. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move my camera to where I want it, which would be kind of more or less centered, so that I'm kind of centered in that particular sort of frame over there on the side. The next thing then is we want those little card shapes that come up. So just referring back to this one, I've got these sort of card things here that are going to pop up. So those, in my case, I just created, I used the shape tool again, but in this case, I used the rounded corner rectangle like that. And then I just wanted these to be sort of cards that were standing out a little bit, but not completely filling that space. So there is one of them. And what I'll do in here is I'll go and give that a slightly lighter gray. There we go. In fact, let me change the background of this one. Darker like that, and then we can add another one of those in like this, and we could just go and make those, whatever colors we wanted. So if you want to obviously change these, in fact, I'm just looking at that. That looks a little bit miserable, doesn't it, in that color? So let me just go and why don't we make a Notion themed one, and I can just put this as some of these Notion colors. So how about the blue, the yellow, and the orange? It's going to make everything stand out a lot better, isn't it? There you go, something like that. So if we were making a Notion themed themed header, we could do it like that. So we've got these three different cards here. What I also did was added a drop shadow on them all. So if we go over to here, and then go to the format menu again and style, then you've got the option for shadow, so we can just add a drop shadow, and that's going to add a shadow to the side of them, which of course is not showing up too well because I've got this here. It's always the same. Whenever I sit and do something myself, I spend a lot of time on working on the colors, and then whenever I just do these demos, it seems like my first attempt at it is absolutely terrible. So you get the idea. Let's adjust the angle of that. So we've got the little bit of a shadow coming off the side. So with the shadow, you can adjust the blur of it, the offset, and the opacity as well of the shadow. So we don't want it too much, just to add a little bit of definition to it. Let me come back to this one. So why don't we add in, we could add in actually, since we're talking about Notion, we could add in the Notion logo. And I'll go over to here, assets, logos. So I'm just going to drag this in. And then we've got our logo just up there. And then let's say we want to put a title in. So I'm going to add some text. And let's call this Notion, just like that. We can go over to the text here, and we can adjust the size of that. So try 100, and put that there. And then what we could do is we could group these things together, or maybe we might want to make that. Let's make that black instead. No, I'm not having much luck today, honestly. These things happen. Let's give that one a shadow though. So if we go to here and go to arrange and style, and we'll go to drop shadow, just a bit of a subtle shadow there on that part. So let's do the same on that one as well. So what we could do is we could group these together. So if you right click and go to group like that, then those two things are going to then be stuck together in that way. That's where we can just sort of animate it on afterwards using that magic move. So let's come back and add some titles into these as well. And let's see if I'll just come in here. I'll just copy this part here, and we'll use this as a title in this particular part here. So I'll just make this a little bit smaller. I might actually take the shadow off that one. So remove drop shadow. And then what are we going to put in here? So I could say, what am I using Notion for? Maybe content. So that was why I started looking at Notion. Actually, I'll be doing I'll be doing some videos about Notion. I've gone down the rabbit hole this past couple of weeks, really. But I've been looking at it for my content management. But then once I started looking at it for content management, I realized actually, and by the way, I'm just pressing the Option key to Option drag to duplicate. I've realized that yeah, actually, it's also uh, going to mean that I'm replacing my OmniFocus with Notion as well. So OmniFocus is what I use for all of my task management, but it seems that if I'm managing content in there and creating tasks around that, then there's no point duplicating it. But I've also been then using it for a product and contacts database as well. So let's say that these are kind of the primary things that I'm using this for. So content, tasks, and contacts, and well, let's put notes because I'm also using it for that as well. And it fits better. Okay, so let's say that this is what I'm trying to build out this little presentation about, and I might be going into the different aspects of each of those. What these titles are basically fixed. So coming back to this one, you can see that I've got those sort of titles there. By the way, the things there that I've got, like the little sort of gold effect, that was effectively just another shape. But what I did was I created a shape that's basically just a long shape like that. And then I went to the fill, and instead of color fill, I changed that to gradient fill. In fact, I just did a regular gradient fill. No, it was that one. Then I changed this to basically some gold color. So I've got this gradient for gold. This is one of my things. If I go to in here, let's say we want to go from that color, this color here, another one in the middle, the bright one, and then this one like that. This will make sense in a moment. There we go. I feel like my brain isn't fully functioning this morning, by the way. Go back to that one and take that one down to transparent. So what I'm doing here is I'm changing the opacity. So we've got basically a color in the middle, and then we've got basically transparent at the end there. And that is a gradient that's going from transparent to, you know, the color there, and then transparent again. And then if I come back out to here and we change the direction of it, then suddenly we've got something that looks a little bit like that. So then I've just basically adjusted the size of that, and that there on there is how I gave that effect of this this sort of gold color, just like that there. So let's assume we're going to leave that on as well, since that's kind of a part of it. It doesn't kind of work with these colors. Maybe I should change these back to black. You let me know what you think. Let's move this down. There we go. And then I'll put one on there as well. So we've kind of got those things as we want them in that. Let's go to, oh, and I tell you what I also did. I also had one of those, since I'm sort of trying to more or less recreate these things. If I go to this one and let's just change the shape of this and have a big long one here. Obviously the gradient is the wrong way around now. So let's go back to this one and change that to 90. So we could add one of those on the side here just to give it a little bit of interest. There we go. So that is that we're now at the stage where I've kind of created this bit. Apart from the text that's going to come on each one, I've kind of recreated that. The gold definitely works better with the black. Maybe we should try. Should we try just making this one a lot darker and then see how that works? So I'll pick one of these darker colors here. Oops. This is one of the things that's a bit frustrating about Keynote is it's very easy sometimes to miss the thing that you are changing the color of, because the thing you're changing the color of has to have this little color wheel here illuminated. Now it's fine here because there's only one thing we can change, but when you get into stuff where you've got different borders and things like that, then yeah, it's sometimes easy to sort of miss what it is you're trying to change. So anyway, we're at the stage now where we've got these cards kind of in the position we might want to put them. So what I'll do is I will duplicate this slide. Oh no, I won't do that. First of all, what I need to do is I need to group some things up together. So what we can do is group the elements that should be together. So like this shadow, the highlight here, the text and the card. If I go to my view menu up here, and what you want to do is enable the object list, so show object list, that's going to pop out this extra thing here, which shows you basically everything that's on the screen, and that's a lot easier then to organize things. So here you can see the red rounded rectangle, but we want to also combine that with this this little gold strip here, and then the notes as well. So you can see that as I highlight those things, it's going to allow me to then group those three elements together. Now it's sort of brought those to the front, which is where we want them, but when I do these next ones here, so I want to group that, that, and that, and if I group this, then actually it stayed in the right place. That's unusual. Usually when you're doing demos, these things screw you over. There we go. So, whoops. So I can highlight from here these three parts, and we're going to group those together as well. And that is the part of the background. So I'll move that down there. Actually, just here, get that better. The right way around, and we will group those together as well. So now we've got basically, this is a group for the logo, this is a group for the background and that little gold strip down the side, and then we've got these three here. What you can also do, which you might find useful a little bit later, further down the line, is as you come into here, you can change the name of these groups. So at the moment, everything says group, 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 which is fine for when you're looking at things here. But if I wanted to go in and animate anything manually, and I click on add an effect to this thing here, and let's say move in, and then let's say I add an effect to this one, fade and scale, and this one we add another effect. I'm just putting random things in here. But if we actually then go and look at the build order, although it showed you a little preview of the thing, everything's got the same name. So they all say group, don't they? What would be better is if you could sort of identify what those things were. So if I go in here and change this one to notes, and I change this one to tasks, and I change this one to content, and this one we'll call logo, and this one we'll call background. Now, what that means is, first of all, you can clearly see what they are here. I mean, you can see from the little preview anyway, but it makes it easier when you're working with animations to be able to see what those are, because as you can see, when I change the names here, it also updates them into this one as well. So as you start doing more complex animations, it's just good to have them specifically named in that way. So what I'll do now is I'll just duplicate this, and we will then go back to the first slide. And if I just zoom out from this a minute. So that's Command Shift and then the little arrow. So we've got a bit more space here. All I'm going to do is move these things off the screen, and we could actually, the starting point of these, thinking about it, the starting point of these is actually going to be kind of like down here. Let me just redo that. The starting point is going to be down there. And then the way it worked is these things sort of concertinaed up in that way. The other thing that we could do is just if you select all of those, make sure they're equally spaced. So we can do that from the format menu. And then in here, you can see distribute, and you can select distribute vertically. It's my Pro Mouse working. There we go. Distribute vertically, and that's just going to make sure that they're all sort of evenly spaced. So just to show you what's going on there, if I put them like that, they're not evenly spaced, and then go to distribute vertically, it's just going to nicely space them all out. So now that they are though, let me put those back down there. And then I will, again, duplicate it. We'll get there eventually. And what I'm going to do on this one then, so we're back on the first slide, I'm just going to move the logo sort of off over here. I'm going to move this thing off to the side like that. I'm also going to move my camera so that it's in the middle. And I actually want this sort of so it's just off the screen, basically. And then these things here, we can sort of move those out of the way as well. Now, what that's going to do then is if we've got the magic move on, so go to animate, and we have got magic move. So we're at this stage now where when I press this button, these things just all come onto the screen. Now, actually, the way that I did it in that other one is I wanted to bring these things on individually to sort of highlight the fact that these are individual cards. So in that case, what you could do is let's just duplicate this one again. I'm actually going to eliminate these cards from here. but then it's only going to animate on the sort of Notion logo and the background there. But then in this one, if I just highlight these three things here, and we just go to a regular animation, so we go to add an effect, and I think I just had these moving in like this. But I changed the direction, so we go bottom to top, so they're going to move in from the bottom. I don't like the bounce thing, and then the speed of it is a little bit too low as well. So let's look at how this looks, and then we've got basically when these things are going to animate on. So if we do a little preview of those, you can see they're going to come up from the bottom. You could have them animating on one after the other, or you could have them animating sort of on click when you actually advance to the next slide or next series of the animation. So what that actually looks like then, where we're up to, is if I click on play, then we've got the bar that slides out from the side. And then we've got the one that slides up. So when I advance to the next slide, so I'm talking about Notion, I'm going to be talking about how I use it for content, how I use it for tasks, and I'm just manually doing these, and how I use it for notes. So that would be like a way that you could use this to sort of introduce things. So next we're going to go back to the magic move. So this should be a lot quicker now to finish this off. So all we're doing now is on the next slide, basically what we want is we want to have this content tab slid up. So we would put this up here. And then we could go and add in a text blocks, because the text block here is going to be something new. So this is going to be it wasn't in the previous scene, and so it will not sort of move anywhere in this one. If that makes sense, we'll just use the animation. Now, what I've done is because I've duplicated this slide, we don't want to repeat the animation of these cards where they're doing that thing where they move up on click. So I'm just going to go back into my animation. And go to the build order, and we just want to delete these animations of those cards, because it's going to animate just by the magic move. Let me know if any of this isn't making sense. But here we've got the things in this position. Here we've got the card there. So the magic move is going to move that content card up. So let's come to this text here then. And I'm just going to say 0.1, 0.2, 0.3. Let's keep it simple. And hopefully this gives you an idea. In fact, what we could do is we could do this as regular bullet points. Like this. Yeah, hopefully this just gives you enough to sort of work with. If I go to format and we go to text, there's an option to add in a bullet. So let's put text bullets. And then you can change the style of it. Why don't we put a star? Maybe be a little bit different. And then you can change things like the size of them and the indent of the text versus the bullet itself. Let's make this text a bit bigger. So let's say 70. That might be a little bit too big actually compared to the other one. Let's do 60. And then we can change the line spacing as well. So we can make that a lot bigger. You can play around obviously with how much text you put on here, but for the time being, I'll just do it like this. The principle here is going to apply whatever text you put in, whatever spacing you use, you can play around with that. And then what we would want to do is let's just give that a bit more spacing. What we'd want to do is then animate just these star points, or these points here that we've got. So if I go into the animate menu again, and then we will go here, and we can change the type of effect. So maybe if you want to have something like this, let's try that one. In fact, that's probably not good. We want them to fly in, let's say. Yeah, that works. But what we want to do is, rather than them all come at once, the delivery method, you can have it by bullet. And what's going to happen there is, if I preview now, it's basically going to come one, and then the next, and then the next. So that's how that's going to come in. Maybe make that a little bit quicker. So just let's see what we've got with that slide. We've basically got the 3 headers come in, and then when we transition to the next, it's going to move that content up. So that's magic move, and then we've got those 3 bullet points that are individually sort of on click. So whoops, I came out there a little bit too quick. Let me try that again. I will just duplicate that slide. So yeah, those things are basically going to come in like this: point 1, point 2, point 3. And of course, you can just go in and change these transitions to be whatever you want. Now, I'm going to actually copy that text group, and we will go to the next slide. And all we're going to do with the next slide is, in fact, let's just move these out of the way. We can even just duplicate this, because all we're going to do is move this up here where we want it. And then these would be, our next points, point A, B, C, related to that particular slide. Now, you may think, well, isn't this going to be because we use the same text block? Isn't that then going to try to do some sort of magic move thing between this one and this one? And although I said that it will move things from one place to another, the exception of that is if there is an on-slide animation effect. So because there is an animation effect on this, actually, where it's going to, these bullet points fly in, actually between this slide and this slide, these ones will disappear completely, and then these ones will come in. Let me show you rather than tell you what's the effect of that is. So if I click on play, and then we have these come out like this, then you see how those fade out. This thing moves up, and then we can just click to go to the next point again like that. So let's then go to another one, because there's one more to do in this, and I will just do exactly the same thing. Move that to there, move that up there, and then we'll put these down here. And we can leave it as point ABC. It can be whatever. You can see how you can just easily reposition that. You can obviously format this text, do whatever you want with it. And then the final thing then is you would want this all to sort of get off the screen. Well, we've got this slide set up here where everything was technically just off screen. So all we need to do is copy that, or duplicate it rather, and then just move that down to the bottom. I'm just going to duplicate that one more time. So let's look at the effect that we've created with this sort of run of slides here. So I'll click on play. We've got the, first of all, the thing slides out. Then we've got an animation effect to bring up the 3 cards that we're going to talk about. Then we've got a magic move to move the content up. Then we've got a regular animation to bring in those 3 bullet points. Then we've got a magic move to move the tasks card up, and a regular animation to bring out those bullet points again. And then exactly the same process with this one. So once these points are up, though, then we're going to use magic move to get everything off the screen, and it'll all just animate out of the way. That is the beauty of Magic Move, is that like a lot of the animation we've done there is not really using the animation tool as such in Keynote. So although you could do all of that with regular animations, it would obviously just take longer, because you'd have to apply all those animations to individual components. I'll go through now and build out 2 other variants of that. It should be a little bit quicker because we've gone through all of the groundwork there, but we'll see. Famous last words. I'll just say a few hellos first. Hey, Dan, great to see you here. Thanks for coming by. And Eric as well, great to see you too. David, great to see you as always. Love the gradient technique and having the color palette pre-configured. Yes, a real time saver that is, having your color palettes all saved there for different use cases. It's the same, by the way, with the font font picker on Apple as well. You can create sort of groups of fonts. So if there's fonts that you use specifically for different use cases, then you can group those all together. So having that together and also having your color palettes together saves a lot of time. I'm sure you already knew this, but I'm just for the benefit of others. Hey, Florence, great to see you as well. And David in the house too. All the lovely people in today. George too, and Wayne, great to see you as well. Hi, Bill. Great to see you here as well. It's always great to see everybody. Anyway, let's move swiftly on, shall we, to the thing there. Let me just, where's my scene? Let me see, new full screen scene. That's the one. No, it's not. It is, where is it? There's a scene I just created. This one. This is the one where I was sharing Keynote, yes. Okay, so if I come back out of this presentation, and what I'll do is do something a little bit different with this next one. Not too different, but a little bit different. And I thought, well, maybe have something where instead of these cards like this, you might want something that was more like a sort of tabbed effect of different sort of tabs that slide out. So let me show you what I mean by that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get rid of these things. Completely. We'll just maybe I'll keep the Notion one. Let's keep on that Notion theme. I'll do a different color scheme this time though. So what I thought was if we create some sort of tabs that we want to come out, and we can make these like this. I want to make them rounded, but actually still filling the full height. So you can always just get the height and things accurate by going to arrange. We'll make the height. I just want to make sure the height is 1080 basically. 1080, and obviously you could change your aspect ratio to be 4K or whatever you want it to be as well. But I'm just at 1080 here. So we've basically got a rounded rectangle, slightly rounded corners there. And let's go with a dark background. So that did seem to work better. But what we can do is we'll create, we'll put a little border around this, but I want to create this effect of a sort of tab just coming out. So imagine like you've got basically a stack of little tabbed parts here that are going to slide out. That we're going to talk about. So it could be that we're going to call this like A. So if I go to text, we'll add in a little text box even. And let's just, for the sake of simplicity, just call them A, B, and C like this. Change the size of this text like that. So we're going to have like a tab A, tab B, and tab C coming out. And if I just come to this one like that, we'll just round that slightly. Get the position of that. You can always nudge things by just pressing the little up and down arrows once you've selected something. And I want to do this so that, how about, let's think. How about we make the, how about we give this a border? We'll stick with our, we'll stick with our Notion colors just for the hell of it. And what I'll do is I'm going to give this a border. So I'll go into the style and we will go to border, and we just want the regular line border. And then the color of that, this is the thing I was talking about where I've just been playing around with the border and I've selected line. So it's kind of, you intuitively think, oh, well, I'll just go and pick a color for that now. But note that it's the full color fill that is selected. So you just have to make sure you click on this one. I always still miss that for some reason. Let's use purple for this one. And I'm going to make that a little bit larger. And now, because we've added a border, what percentage have we done? We've added a border, so it's a little bit off the top of the screen. I think we might want to, do we want to keep the border in at the top or have it crop off? Yeah, I think something like that. And now if I make the background of this tab, make that the same purple. So now we are selecting the fill and we'll make that purple. And I want that tab to be kind of behind the rectangle. So behind the tab. So now you can see the effect we've got. It's actually not that clear. Let me just make this a bit clearer what I'm trying to do. Hopefully it is. I'm just going to temporarily stick this behind here so that you can see what I'm aiming for. I've now got a tab basically where there is a color going on. The border and the tab are the same color. Can't speak or work today. Let's make that a little bit lower. And let's also add a shadow. Now, actually, the thing about this is I want to add a shadow, but if I add a shadow to just that one, it's going to put a shadow over the tab. But I do want to keep the tab and that separate because otherwise they would, if I combine those two shapes, you can easily combine shapes. I'll show you what I mean by that. If you've got two shapes here, you can go into the arrange and then you can go into this one, which is unite, and it will join them together. But what it'll also do is it will merge their properties. So there I've got a solid color, which is not kind of what I want, not quite what I want. Although what I could do is I could kind of use that and I could align that back up again. And if I drop this down to the back, because what I'm trying to do is add a drop shadow. So if I go to there and add a drop shadow, then let's just give that a little bit more definition there. The offset, make it a bit more offset, and the blur like that. So I want to just have a subtle drop shadow, but if I added the drop shadow to just this top part, the shadow would appear over the top of the tab as well, which wouldn't work. So that's why I've ended up with these sort of basically three elements the same. So let's now create some other tabs as well, and I will just duplicate all of this. But now what we want to do is basically put these in slightly different positions. So I want to get that all lined up there, but now this is going to be basically tab B. So I'm going to move that down here, and we'll call this tab B. And then we want to change the colors. So I'll come here and change this to, let's say, blue. We'll change the tab to blue as well. Oops, I don't want to change. There we go. I've done exactly the thing that I said is very easy to do. I changed the background rather than the border. There we go. So we now got our B tab. I need to do that thing again where I duplicate these things and then just merge them. So I'll come over to here, arrange and merge, unite like that. And then I'll add the drop shadow again. So now that one's got a shadow, and then let's just repeat that process one more time. Obviously, you could make as many of these as you want. I will just do 3 for the time being because it's, I think, enough to show the effect. And then we want to move this here down like that. And you see how I'm getting those little guides? Maybe you can't, but those little yellow lines between them just up at the top, it's kind of showing me that they're spaced equally. So if I'd put this down here, obviously that would be out of alignment, but or not spaced the same. But if I move up here, you'll see that there's a point where it's now showing me that the gap between the A and B is the same as the gap between the two Bs. And the two Bs are soon to be a B and a C. So I've changed the color of this one now. Let's pick one of these others, maybe the green. And then I'll come back to this one and change the line color to green in there. So then what I can do is I've got to do that thing again where I just basically duplicate those two, and I'm going to merge them like that. And that is only so that I can apply a shadow which affects all of those. Style, shadow, like that. So we've now got our 3 cards. Maybe you might want to have the A at the top of the stack actually, but if we come down to here, we'll just group these things together. So those 4 elements there are everything in the C card. So the background, the tab, and then the one that we're using for the shadow, and then the letter C. So if I just go to group like that, I will group these ones here, and then group those as well. I'm not actually going to bother with the logo on this one because this is more of a, each of these cards is individual. I suppose I could add it into each individual card, but I think I won't do that. So yeah, let's just actually completely delete that original Notion logo. So now you can see we've got this same thing where everything's just called group, group, group. So let's change that to, this one is group C. This one is group. And you could use, obviously, I mean, I just put A, B, and C here, but you could use different logos or pictograms. So if you were talking about specific aspects, I mean, what I could have done, which I won't bother going back and doing now for the sake of time, but if we were to use that previous example of Notion, like where I'm talking about content, tasks, and notes, what I could have done is in here, just gone in and picked out, like from the shapes, there's lots of other different pictograms in here as well. So, or I could have used emojis, you know, for some sort of content emoji, task planner, you know, and notes. I could have just used icons in here. All you would need to do to edit this, bearing in mind that this is available as a download, all you would need to do to edit this is basically just go and you know, go into one of these groups like group C, and where you can see the C there, you would just drop in an image or pictogram that you want to put in there. So we've now got this situation where we've got these tabs sort of sticking out onto the screen where we ultimately want them. I mentioned before about putting everything in the right place for how it's going to be when everything's out. So let's move these things out like this as well. So that is kind of the final position. Let's duplicate this, and what we could do is do the same sort of thing before, where we did one part where we kind of introduced the different things that we were going to talk about. So we might want to just sort of bring out these tabs onto the screen like this. And I will just put that exactly back in the center. So we could actually just sort of animate these onto the screen for this first slide. So let me show you what I mean by that. If I just come to here, we've selected these three items. If I go to animate and then add an effect, let's just say move in. I don't like the bounce, but we'll sort that out. And then we'll just make it a little bit quicker. And then we go to the build order. So at the moment they're in the wrong order. It's A, C, B. We want A, B, C, obviously. Whoops, got them all selected. Right. So what that's going to do is, when we're introducing the things we're going to talk about, we can just bring those in like that on a click. And then the next slide, whether we want them to all move out like that, perhaps we do actually. Maybe they move out like that to begin with. Let me just think about the best way to do this. How do we want them? At the edge of the slide like this. And then they kind of move out one after the other. And the tabs are kind of going to get in the way a little bit of there, aren't they? Let me just think on my feet for a minute as to the best way to do this. Yeah, how do we want to animate those? We could have one just coming to the front actually. So let's try that. I'll just try this to see how this looks. If I duplicate this, and then in here, we just move the B up to the top. Let's see what this looks like when we do it. It might give a bit of a weird effect actually. It kind of works actually, that does. It does just sort of flick from one to the other, so that does kind of work. I'll do that again then here. And we'll move C to the top. And this would then be a case of, any text that you've got in these individual slides, whatever that happens to be, you could just put that all on here. You might want to have different headings. Let's just, for the sake of simplicity, actually just copy these headings from here. So if we put something like that, in fact, it was content, tasks, and what was the other one? Notes. So yeah, we could introduce that. Those are the things we're talking about. And then let's just do the same in here. And then this one is we're going to duplicate this slide because this is basically the starting position. These things are going to come on screen. Then we've got these three magic move things where the things move out. And then we're going to finish with the magic move, taking these things back off screen again. And we can take them so they just stay on the side, in fact. But what I need to do is, if you remember, I need to remove the animations that we've got on these things because we don't want them to build in. We're just using the magic move. So if I go over to build order like this, and then the other thing that we need to animate is on here, we need to just add an effect on that, or actually the magic move will take care of sort of fading that in. So let's see how this looks. So we'll start like this. So we're using a regular animation to bring on these points as we're talking about them, talking about whatever it was, content, tasks, and notes. Then they move out. You've still got this little sidebar thing going on here. Then the content appeared as part of the magic move. So it kind of faded in because it wasn't there on the previous slide, but it was there on this one. And then we go through and talk about those points, whatever it is. And then all the magic moves is doing now in the next one is it's actually fading out the block and bringing the B to the front. So it's kind of going through the tabs in that way. But it is clear though, because we've got the border on the shape there, that this is tab B that we're looking at. So we're kind of just using the color coding in that respect. And then the next one is it's going to just bring the C to the front, and then we've got that same effect just there. And then the final magic move is going to take off those notes, and then it's going to just move the tabs out to the side using the magic move. So just like that, and that's back to that magic move effect. And then obviously you could have another one which was just with those moved off if you when you want to move them off the screen. So what I mean by that is if I just duplicate this slide, I'll do it a couple of times actually because I'll be using a blank one afterwards. Then what you could do is highlight these things and just slide them out of the way so that after that final magic move, you might want those things to stay on the screen for a moment, but then have them, when you click again, they're just going to subtly move off the screen. So that's another iteration of the same kind of thing. We've got this one with these sort of cards that come up that way. We've also got this one. Another one that could be an option would be where you want to actually sort of build out information to have the information stay on the screen. So people say, you know, oh, keep information on the screen to a minimum when you're doing presentations and things like that. Actually, there's a time when you need to have lots of information and lots of complex information potentially on screen as part of a bigger picture. I've done plenty of things where, you know, you might look at the final slide and think like, that looks a lot. And I certainly don't, you know, advocate obviously just reams of text. That's a definite no-no. But as long as you build up to the content, and so things are introduced onto the screen bit by bit, so that there is no confusion, and so that people aren't also trying to second guess what you're talking about. So even just as simple as these points here, you know, when you bring up bullet points onto the screen, I always recommend that you actually bring the bullet points on as you're talking about them and introducing them. Because if I was going to talk about 3 different points on this slide, but these things were already there, people's minds would naturally be reading ahead and be thinking about what that could relate to or what that could mean. So you always want to make sure that you're talking about whatever it is first, and then the content that's on the screen is in support of that. But let's say you were talking about like a multi-step process where you wanted to talk about the different parts of the different steps or whatever. Then there would be a very good use case for having that all on screen at the same time, but maybe you don't want it all up there to begin with. So I thought, well, let's build out something that's the same kind of effect of this, 3 cards, whatever you want to call them, on screen, but where they sort of come out one after another in that effect. So let's take a look at how we could do something like that. I'm going to start just again with a blank slide, and we will just zoom out from here a little bit. Let's get rid of this whole tab thing. Let's just actually start again. And I will do this as I kind of like that rounded rectangle, actually, the shape. So let's just do another one with a rounded rectangle. And what I'm ultimately looking to build out to, and again, I always think about how it's going to look when it's finished, is something a little bit. Let's sort of split this more or less into quarters. And I'll just start by putting a few things on screen to have a look at what it's going to look like I often just use garish bold colors just so I can clearly see what I'm talking about. And we might want to have this in here. So imagine we're talking about a 3-step process, but we want to have those 3 steps, all displayed on screen. What else I could do is, let's see, if I just in the interest of spacing these out, I want to make sure, I want to do let's get these at like quarters, shall we? So we split this screen into quarters. So what I can do easily is I can put a white line, or let's make it red so that we can see the color of it. I'm going to change from these colors, by the way, but what I'm doing is I'm just want to put a few guides on. I could actually do this a lot easier with just working out the sizes of them and using the guides and spacing. I'm just going to put these on like this. And then if we know the position of all of these lines here, and one of them's at one side, one of them's at the other, and then I can go to arrange, and that distribute function, so distribute horizontally, it's just going to give me some guides as to where the sort of quarter spacing is. That's actually a little bit squished, isn't it? Maybe we want to do something like third there. How big do we want that? There we go. That fits my somewhat fat head in. Distribute horizontally. So all I'm doing here is I'm just putting these little red lines on, just so that I can sort of get the positions of these exactly where I want them, and see how it looks. So maybe something like that. Maybe a little bit further out. Right, I will distribute those ones. Yeah, I'll get rid of those lines now. It was just for me to sort of play around. So yeah, if we think that we've got these three different stages, these three different cards, actually, you know what? I'm not quite right there. Let's try that again. Yeah, that's because I get it. Right. Sorry, that's just me talking to myself, as I often do. I don't just talk to myself when I'm on camera, it turns out. Right, so what I'm trying to do is basically have a thing where these cards are going to come out initially sort of together, but then we'll sort of expand them out one after another. So let's think of this as, maybe we call it step 1, step 2, and so on. So this will all make sense in a moment. I'm going to put a thing up here, call this step 1. And we'll do the same kind of thing here, where we want to sort of build out these different bullet points. And I'm just copying and pasting in the interest of time. And yeah, this might be, you know, various different things related to this step. Let's stick with those. I quite like the darker background, but what we could maybe do is something a little bit graduated. So we'll stick with the Notion colors. I've just applied a color to the background. I will go to the border, add a line, and let's just do the same kind of thing as we did before, where we use some of those Notion colors on that. I'll give those a little bit of a thicker border, and I'm going to add a drop shadow as well. So format, drop shadow. You can't see it at the moment against that background, but it will come up afterwards. And then what we can do is we can duplicate this. So that's a rectangle and those things there. Duplicate. And what I'm going to do is put the step 1 and the rectangle, that can be grouped. So group, and we'll call that step 1. Because this is the thing that's going to come out with, we're going to animate with Magic Move, and then the points themselves are going to just animate regularly on each slide. But we're basically going to build out the sort of final position of this first of all. So let's come back to here. Let me just delete these a minute. I've got a few things going a bit weird. Okay, so let's try that again. If I duplicate, and this time I want to move that behind the other one. I want it sort of behind. What I need to do is put it in position first. I'll put it there, and then I will move it behind at that point. Now it looks like actually this is not going quite up to the top. Step back, stand away from Keynote, Alec. Let's try this again. If I just see where the top of this is, it looks like it's not quite at the top, that's why. So the size of it and position of it's not quite right. That's now filling the screen. Otherwise, I would have been left with a little gap there. Apologies for that. Put that one back in the middle. Okay. Yeah, that's looking all right. Okay, so let me try that again. I'm going to duplicate again. Sorry, but if this doesn't make sense, often these things might not make sense until I've got a little bit further with them. Put that there. So this is basically going to be what we can call step 2. Hopefully you can start to see what's happening here. Step 2. And then let's give this a different name. We want to call this group step 2 as well, just so that it's clear. And then let's do exactly the same thing again. I'm just going to drag that across to here. And we can then move it to the back. And then we can call this step 3. Like that. And then what else? And then we can change the colors of these. So we can go into these different things, and maybe we want step 1 to be blue, step 2. So now I've highlighted that rounded rectangle as part of step 2, and I'll change the color of the border to be, let's say, green. We could also, to be fancy, we could change the color of the text to match the thing as well. So if I go to the text of step 2 and go to text, we could change that obviously to be the same green color. And then this one, step 1, we could change that text to be the blue color. And then this one, what color are we going to have for this? Rounded rectangle style. The line color around the outside. Let's say we use the orange this time. And then I can go to the text again, up to the text at the top. And then we've got the color selected for the text there. And so change that. So now we've got basically a 3-step process like that. Now I can get rid of those red lines that were just being used for helping me to see where things were. So this is basically the sort of finished position. And as I say, you could obviously add in whatever information you need in here. You could change the titles, add in pictograms, do whatever. But for the time being, that's we'll just leave it like this. So what we want to do now is sort of work back from this to go from where none of this is on the screen. So the actual starting position, if I just duplicate this. The starting position could be that we want these things, we don't want any of this text on, so I'll just delete this. But these 3 cards, maybe actually we want them to sort of show something like this to indicate that there is maybe 3 steps to it. So if I just select all of these things, we could have them that the cards themselves kind of come onto the screen in this way to begin with, in which case we can move our camera over like this. And then we could duplicate again. And you might want to sort of animate these things on using Magic Move. So if I move these things off the screen, and actually if I move them off the screen, but I also align them all together. So whereas they are not aligned here, you can see one sticking out further than the other. By putting them aligned just off the screen here, and then animating them all on together, what happens is you get this sort of concertina effect. Let me show you like this. So if I use the Magic Move, you can see how, because they've got the same starting position, but they've got different ending positions, so they're going to sort of expand out from each other. It's really subtle, but it's just done with the Magic Move, basically. So maybe if that was a bigger different distance, you would have seen it more, but you get the idea. It's just animating these things on. So the next thing we want to do then is duplicate this slide a couple of times. And the first thing we want to do then is we want to keep those distances the same as we've got in there, actually. So let's see how close they are together. I'm actually going to eyeball this. There's probably a lot to be said for actually being a little bit more accurate at this, but I just want to get those distances between, you see how like the distances between the edges of the cards. For the sake of speed, I am just going to completely eyeball that. I want to put my camera so that it's in the middle again. So there is a little sort of the marks on the edge there. So I'm just sort of eyeballing this. I've got these things in the background here, so it makes it easier for me to kind of see as well how much of, if that's equally spaced in the middle there. So that is the first iteration, we've got nothing on screen, then these little tabs come out, then we're expanding out basically the first one, and now I'm going to repeat that to get to these points. So if I go to here and duplicate this, then this one would be where this is just over to here. Maybe a little bit more further over. And then the final one is going to be that. So if you think about the magic move, basically the magic move is going to move out all three of those tabs, but this won't be on screen. This is going to animate by bullet because we've got that animation. Now if we move on to the next screen, the step 2 is going to move out, but we want to remove the animation on these particular bullets because they're just still there from the previous scene. And the whole point of this was, as I say, to sort of build up where you've got actually a lot of information on screen, but you're just doing it sort of step by step. So in this case, I'm going to go to these points here, and then we're going to go to the animate and the build order. And because they're selected on screen here, they're also selected in here. So I'm just going to delete those three, whoops, famous last words. I'm going to delete the 3 animations, not the actual things. There we go. So now it's only these ones that are animating. This will all make sense in a moment. And the same with this. If I select these items here and remove the animation from those, now we've just got this that is animating. And then the final thing is having those things all move off the screen again. So this slide that we've got here where everything is off the screen, I'm just going to duplicate that and then bring that down to the bottom. And I'll just duplicate that one more time. So here is the effect. Let's see if this all works. I think I've ticked all the boxes. So the first thing is we've got these little things that slide out from the side to maybe indicate how many different steps there are, and you would obviously talk through this. Then you've got the next thing. So the camera moves over, the step 1 pops out from the side there. Let me just switch to this one. That's a bit cleaner. I realized I was doing a screen share, so we were getting the edge of the screen in. Then the next thing is obviously those different bullet points come out for step 1. That's just an animation on screen. And then we've got another magic move animation where the step 2 then slides out and the camera slides over. Camera position's a bit off there. It's not really centered, is it? Let me just go and fix that. There we go. I'll just move that back over there. Just ignore that slight technical hitch there. So then we've got the different points for step 2. And then finally, we've got the last one there, just about to squish my head. And then we've got the different things that are coming out there. And then finally, if we're pressing to go, and by the way, all I'm doing is you could be pressing the arrow key to go to the next slide. Or if you've got a presentation clicker, you could be doing that. I'm just transitioning basically with Stream Deck, wrong camera. Where is that? They're looking in the wrong place, basically. But I'm just doing it with Stream Deck. So I've got a button on my Stream Deck to transition from one to the next. And then that stuff all just moves out with a final magic move, just like that. Let's come in here. There we go. This is the one that I want. So all of that I've just done there is obviously using Magic Move and the live video feature into Keynote. And then what I'm doing is I'm just sharing my screen in Ecamm to bring that all into Ecamm. If you were using OBS, you could do that as well. Technically, you could just create things like this and record in Keynote as well. I don't record in Keynote because Ecamm just gives you the versatility of adding in all the other things, and it's live production software. So I sort of don't use Keynote for live production, and I don't use Ecamm for presentations. I put the two of them together and use the presentation capabilities of Keynote with the live production capabilities of Ecamm. So the other benefit of doing something like this, where you've created the flow of the slides and so on in Keynote, and then you're bringing that into Ecamm, is it means that you've only actually got one scene in Ecamm that's just sharing Keynote. And then similarly, you've only got then a couple of buttons on your Stream Deck and in fact, I've just noticed. Hello, great to see you. Tempe's guitar channel. Yeah, I made a few on presentation stuff, and I always call these immersive presentations, where rather than a person on one side and a slide deck on the other, you're kind of a part of the slide deck. Yeah, so anyway, glad you're finding it useful. But I've just noticed your other comment about can you show the Stream Deck setup for this? Yeah, basically the Stream Deck. Let me get my Stream Deck up. Where is it? Let's just drag this right over the top. This is the Stream Deck that I'm using. Excuse me. I just had to have a little cough there. This is the Stream Deck profile that I use. So these are all of my Ecamm scenes for sharing different parts of the screen, different camera angles, top-down shots over here. But essentially, all I need for what I've been doing today is these two buttons here, forward and backwards, in Keynote. And then this one is just a scene that I've got in Ecamm that is sharing my Keynote presentation. Literally, I'm just advancing my slides to bring on the different animations by pressing this button. And although I've created custom icons for this, it's basically just the Keynote plugin. You've just got next slide. So next slide goes to either the next slide, or it will also just go to the next step in the animation. So all of those different transitions you were seeing, I'm basically just using this one button here. And then with Ecamm, then I've just got a scene where I'm sharing my entire Keynote, and then that's mixed up with other ones. So I've got scenes like this one. I've got a screen share where I can share different parts of the screen. I should probably say, if you're interested in learning more about Keynote, I've got my Keynote masterclass where you can find more about it at the link just dropped into the description and also in the chat as well. And then that is basically 50 lessons covering all aspects of Keynote. So starting with an introduction to Keynote, introducing Keynote, basics of building a presentation, looking at animations and transitions, where I go into more details of the sorts of things we've talked about today. But presentation best practices, I've mentioned a couple of those today. Creating immersive presentations, that's what I call these things where you are in the presentation. So there's a section on that, and then talking about different ways you can export Keynote, and then also how you can use Stream Deck within Keynote, both in the creation side of things. So for example, let me just bring up my Keynote profile on Stream Deck. And now that I've switched profile, I can't switch scene. Let me try that again. There we go. This is my Keynote profile in Stream Deck, and this is available on my store, by the way. As I'll drop a link to that. This is intended to be promotional, but there you go. I do have a Keynote icon pack on the store, and basically this is what I use when I'm actually building these things. So things like the shapes, I use these shapes a lot: the squares, rectangles, and so on. And then what I do is I'm doing things like combining those. So that thing where I merge those two shapes, I've actually got a Stream Deck button to do that. These are the tools for merge, combine, and all of those kind of things. Those alignment tools and distribute, I've got shortcuts for all of those in there as well. Grouping and ungrouping, flipping things around. So these are just the tools that I use commonly. There's a few more in there as well, but these are the tools that I use commonly on Stream Deck when I'm actually creating in Keynote. But you get that as part of the Keynote course in any case. Now what I've got to do is get back to my my regular my regular profile, yeah. So that is the Keynote masterclass. You can find out more about that in the description. And then I also talk about using Keynote as a general graphic design tool. So incidentally, all of these icons, I create all of my Stream Deck icons in Keynote as well. So it's really an easy and simple thing to create simple graphics in. I've got Illustrator and Photoshop and all that sort of stuff, but sometimes it's easy to just create those things in there. So that was, I don't know if that answered your question. The point was, can you show your Stream Deck setup? It's really, despite the potential complexity of my Stream Deck setup here, actually, it's only really two buttons, and that is the beauty of creating these things in Keynote to be able to then just sort of basically advance your slides. But all I am doing is I've just got I've got I don't need. I've got 3 Stream Decks on my desk. There's another one just off to the side here, and 2 Stream Deck pedals. But actually, for the purposes of this, Ecamm sharing Keynote and then just advanced slide to go to the next slide will do it. So so there you go. Let me just check in with the chat because I want to come back afterwards to talk about this is using the live video feature into Keynote. But I mentioned that I mentioned that you can do it without having the live video if you just want to create graphics in here. So I'll talk about that one in a moment. Let me just come back to here though. Keynote in the cloud, to answer this question. Hi Wayne. Keynote in the cloud. Yeah, you can work collaboratively with other people and have stuff updating and sync like that. I don't think it can do like remote control though, as such. Not that that's necessarily what you're asking, but it's not like remotely playing a presentation or something like that. So yeah, but it can sync and you can collaborate on stuff. Let's have a look. Sorry, I see what you're saying. Is Keynote in the cloud? I've just seen David's response to that afterwards. I thought you were asking about a feature of Keynote, but you were asking actually about Keynote. Is Keynote in the cloud? Can someone update the file remotely? Keynote is a desktop app for Mac. It's also free. It's one of the Apple sort of Office type suite. I prefer Keynote to PowerPoint. PowerPoint actually has a few more features, but I just prefer the way that Keynote works. And when I say it has a few more features, whether they're not necessarily things that I use. So it's as with a lot of Microsoft products, I feel a little bit more bloated. So yeah, I find that there's certain things that Keynote does that PowerPoint can't. Like up until recently, the magic move was one of them, but it just works more the way my brain works. I've used PowerPoint for years previously as well, so they're both. You can do what I've done here. You can do that in PowerPoint as well, and you can export from PowerPoint to Keynote and vice versa. So it is a Mac app. The rest of the Mac Office suite, so there's Keynote is the PowerPoint equivalent. Then they've got Pages, which is the Word. I'm not going to use equivalent because Word, I much prefer Word. It's far more powerful, definitely. And then they've got Numbers, which is their kind of spreadsheet tool. I'm a total Excel geek. I absolutely use that all the time and love it. I've used that for years as well. And Excel is just on a completely different level to Numbers. Numbers is for me seems more like if you just want to create a couple of little spreadsheets, maybe for home use or something like that. But it's nowhere near as versatile as Keynote in terms of Excel can link to databases and all this kind of stuff, SQL databases and so on. So anyway, that's just my view on that. But the Apple Office suite is something that's free if you've got a Mac, and Keynote is the one out of all of those three that I just think is really great. But yes, you can do all of this in PowerPoint. But what I thought your question was, Keynote has a feature where you can sync things to the cloud and you can collaborate on stuff as well. So that's what I thought your question was, but it wasn't. And by the way, I also get asked about Canva because that's obviously a popular presentation tool. Canva doesn't do the magic move type thing, as I understand it, and you can't bring your live video in there. But you can certainly, build out presentations. You could certainly build out the thing that I'm going to show next, actually, which is how you can do all of these without the live video feature, but then just add it into your production after the fact. Canva has an added benefit in that there is such a huge range of existing templates, direct access for downloading stock photos and all that kind of stuff. So I know that Canva is a great choice as well, but I just I'm sort of into the Keynote's just a part of my workflow, and I don't use the template so much. I just create my own stuff. That was a long answer to a question that nobody asked, but there you go. So anyway, hey Paul, great to see you here as well. I'm glad you're liking this, George. I don't know what that moment was, but I'm glad there was a mind-blowing moment. Let's see. Where are we? am I up to date with these? Let me just check. Thank you for the confirmation there, Paul. Indeed, Keynote is an awesome vector content creation tool. It is so simple. Yeah, I just broke something, but I'm back. I don't know if you can hear me now. I think I should be back up. That is a little bit weird, but there we go. I'm back. Okay. Let me just reset a few things. My internet dropped, but fortunately, Ecamm allows you to just reconnect to your stream. So, right, let's see where we're up to. So I'm not quite sure where I dropped off there. I think I was just up to this comment and saying I will go and do a little bit more of a demo to show you how you can do this if you're not using your using the live video. So there we go. I did indeed break the internet. Right. Okay. Cool. Let's get back up and running again then. So here we can go back into the presentation. And I will go to this screen. This is the one that we were sharing. So if you wanted to do this kind of thing without using the live video feature, there are a couple of ways that you could do it. First of all, you could actually just sort of export this as individual slides, but obviously then you just and by that I mean sort of static, but then you obviously lose the effect of it. But you can do this in Ecamm if you were to use their the green screen sharing feature. So let's say that we wanted to do this one where these things pop out. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to duplicate all of these slides, and I will stick them right at the top like this. And then all we're going to do is we're just going to delete the it's a good job I didn't use green in this, otherwise it would have completely screwed up this part of the demo. I didn't actually think about it before, but there you go. I'm going to just remove this completely, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace that with basically a green background. I could actually, let's do this the proper way. I could actually go into the format and change the slide background to color fill, and then I could change that to green. And then if I go into here and I do the same with these ones, so I'm just going to remove the thing from here like that, and then I'll just do the same with these ones. I'm just going to highlight them all, and then I'll change the fill to green just like that. So now we've basically got the same animation effects of these things coming onto screen, but basically there's just this green background. Well, now what I can do in Ecamm is if I come back over here and let's just do a sort of live demo here. So there we go. I'm showing my whole screen. If I go into my overlays window in Ecamm and I just add in a screen share overlay, it's going to default to whatever the primary display is, but I can come in here and change that to be Keynote. If I say Keynote, this is going to look a little bit weird to begin with because I'm not running it as a presentation. In fact, let's just do that then. If I just click play presentation in Keynote, so now it's running like that. You can see those bars that are at the top and the bottom, and you might think, why are those there? Well, it's because where we're doing a screen share, it's actually defaulted to the shape of the primary display, which is my MacBook. And so if I change that to 16:9, then it will be the same aspect ratio as the presentation. Now you can see that we've got the first slide, which was that completely green slide. But what we can do is click on the little pencil icon there, and then we've got this green screen key, and that's basically going to remove any green from the scene or from the overlay. But what I first want to do is just get this to completely fill the screen first of all, and then I will apply that now that I know that it's in the right position. So now we've got basically Keynote is playing over the top of this, but it's completely keyed out, and the effect of that is that if I go to my next slide in Keynote, we still get the same animation. You can see what I mean about it kind of like squashing me. It means that I'm kind of, not framed. I should probably be over here. That's why I like to use the animation of the video into Keynote first, because then it does that subtle sort of moving of me on the screen. I mean, I could just do it myself, couldn't I? I could just literally go, here we go. We're going to talk about this. Just move over. But anyway, there we go. So this is just doing exactly the same things as we've looked at earlier, but all we're doing is we're just keying out the green part of the thing, and just to show you that is just there. If I click on this pencil icon again and I just activate that green screen or deactivate it, you can see that we've just got that green that's going across. So that is actually another way that you can do it. Or the other reason why you might want to do it this way is potentially if you've got some issue where I know that Keynote doesn't recognize every camera. So depending on the camera you're using or the capture device you're using, it might not be recognized in Keynote. You just might not be able to get the live video feature. The other reason why you might want to not use this approach rather than the live video feature is because if you're bringing live video feed into Keynote and you've also got a live video technically into Ecamm with all of the cameras that you've got connected, what you might find is that it's very processor heavy, or it is processor heavy, but it might be exceeding what your processor is capable of. So if you've got a lower powered computer, or you find that you're having processor issues, then that second option of just using the green screen method would be a better way of doing things. Hello, Christopher. Great to see you. I'm glad you're catching me live for the first time. Great to have you here. So if there's any questions about those things that I've created today, or Keynote in general, actually, then feel free to ask. The link is pinned to the top of the chat, or it should be, and also down in the description. So as soon as I've finished here, I'm going to just basically upload this template exactly as we've just created it. It's this one. So I'll upload this template exactly as we've created it, and you can just go in and play around and edit these. Obviously, yeah, it's just a case of going and changing colors if you want to change these to your company colors or whatever, or play around with the sizes, but all of those transitions will be in there. So this is exactly what I'm going to upload immediately afterwards. The link in the description will take you to the page to just enter your name and email, and then you'll get it sent to you as soon as it's done. Any questions though, do let me know, and hope my internet holds out. I'm now tethered to my this is funny. I am now tethered to my iPhone 6S. I'm not a phone guy, but it's got really good high speed what do they call it? No limit internet. So I use it basically just for tethering my iPad too. But this stream is currently being streamed to you wirelessly via my iPhone 6S. Yes, and it is 2024. Any questions though, do let me know. If not, then I will welcome you to ask them in the Discord. We have got a community. So down in the link in the description, you'll see a thing to say join the family. I actually don't say join Discord because I know people get put off by the idea of Discord. It is a thing. There is a video that will sort of give you a little onboarding to help you find your way around in there. And then that's kind of the best place to ask questions, actually. I don't really keep up with my comments on YouTube. I've just accepted that it's unsustainable. Until I actually take somebody on to just go and answer them. But I don't want to do that either, because then that's not genuine at all, is it? So, it's the trouble with YouTube comments for a tech channel is that, often it's getting into consultation level questions, and I just haven't got time for so many of these in the day. So I'm really bad at keeping up with my comments. I sort of go in and try and keep up on top of some of them when I've got some time, and then a lot of them unfortunately fall by the wayside. But the Discord is somewhere where you can come and ask whatever level of technical question you want in there, and then it's not just me that will be able to answer, but other people as well. And also the beauty of that is that everyone gets to benefit from those answers as well. Now, I've got a feeling when I switch to my end screen, it's going to actually switch to another camera because I forgot to change it over from last week. But if there are no further questions, then I will wrap it up there. And what I'll do is I'll leave a link to some other stuff over on the other side. But when I switch to this scene, look at that. It's got the wrong camera in there. But never mind. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will see you all next time. And thanks, as always, to my channel members and also Academy members too. Have a wonderful day. See you next time.